You know, Monty, we had a great time last week. When I agreed to do these, never did I know how much things would change in the in the week that followed. Our first Raw review was the last Vince McMahon show. Our second is the first Triple H show, folks. Welcome back. We're here for another Raw review. Good afternoon, right, Monty? How are you today, pal?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Still a bit early in the day. Haven't done
Yes.
too much already, but yeah, you know, we're getting right into it.
We are. There's a lot to talk about, folks. If you are new here, welcome. Please be tempted to give us a thumbs up and subscribe and all that good stuff. If you're still here, familiar with us, and you still haven't done either of those things, what are you waiting for? It's a Raw review. And what do you want from us? Anyway, let's get right into it because there is a lot actually. You know, last week you and I even talked about it off the air. We didn't think there was a lot of kind of newsworthy stuff, right? As I was preparing for this, I was like noting stuff down, but like, this stuff's vaguely interesting, which
hmm
I'm sure is partly subconscious, like me kind of watching the show differently. Before we get into it, do you think that was a factor for you watching this week's show? Like your mind kind of, this is better, right? This like kind of playing tricks on itself. Or was this a real thing that we experienced this week?
I was saying to our friend Hollywood that in terms of like quality of show level, it was probably about the same level as one of the good recent Raws lately,
Yeah, I
if
agree.
that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm assuming that there was probably a few new eyeballs on it last night who were just kind of interested, whether that was popping in and out or whatever they were doing. And Raw has been pretty
Yeah.
decent lately. It kind of wasn't great the past couple of weeks, but in terms of like the past couple of months, it has been pretty decent, especially when Cody was around. So um, then, like even when Cody got injured, like the way that they kind of centered the products around the women a lot more. They got a
Mm-hmm.
lot more focus on the women, and they had quite a lot of stuff going on there. So Raw has been pretty decent lately, and this was just kind of another one to add to that. But in terms of the show in general, I think it was good. Everything was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Like
agree.
nothing. There was the wrestle crap and the down points were very brief and kept pretty minimal, to be honest. So it was a solid show from start to finish, which is how often do you say that?
Right, because I agree with you. I think in totality, I don't think it's that much different to a Raw we got in maybe June. But there were
Yeah,
certainly segments on those June Raws that like never needed to be seen by anyone with eyes.
yeah.
Um, I don't think that was the case here beyond one that just kind of went awry, which we'll get into. So it's
hmm
interesting. I think it's definitely benefited from the fact that since Money in the Bank, the show has been bad. So it kind of had, it feels like an improvement in that regard. Obviously, we're at step one here, folks. No one's expecting the show to transform overnight. But I will say they clearly opened with big time intentions because I think they got the sense more people are going to be watching this week is to go home and they started the show in a way that honestly I thought was pretty unique for their kind of playbook. They started in the midst of a brawl, surprisingly
hmm
with Miz in control of that brawl at the start there. Right? It was a weird visual we ended the show on. Miz and Logan Paul going back and forth to kind of give the show a hot start. That was definitely like an intended kind of hook for the audience. And what did you think of it? How effective was it for you?
Uh,
Yeah.
it was kind of striking for the first 0.1 second. It was
Yeah,
like,
I
oh, what's
agree.
going on here? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just kind of brawled, got split up. I believe I heard Dave say this already somewhere earlier today. They opened with that because they basically didn't just want to send Logan Paul out there kind of cold and just get the shit booed out of him
Well,
because obviously
that's
he's one of the
unfortunate.
he's one of the Paul brothers. So they opened with that like something hot. Do you know what I mean? So when he came back later, it was maybe like, they tried to like take the edge off it a bit,
Yeah.
and maybe it might have worked a bit, maybe not to the right effect.
Mm.
But this Logan Paul babyface stuff is it's pretty tough, man. But obviously we'll get to that a bit later.
It certainly doesn't feel like these are the best two guys to do a hot opening show brawl. Um, Unfortunately, I don't know if that feud really exists on the program. They do another brawl
Mhm.
later, which you could have done, but I get you wanted to do like a promo with that kind of.
Mhm.
So I think basically, while I think that's absolutely the case, what you just said, I do think if like I came to you on Monday afternoon and said we want to start this thing hot with a wild brawl, what we're going to do, you'd be like, looking at the format, like Theory and Lashley, like it's hard, man. So it was kind of jarring. I don't think this was the right spot for necessarily these guys, but I appreciate the effort of like, let's try and make it feel exciting. You know, so often it's so formulaic the way the show starts. Playing around with the format is fun. I will say, and I think we're both going to praise for the segment itself. I really would have been tempted to go over match then, like brawl match, just to immediately tell the audience it's different. Of course, their approach to it is what their approach is, which is Roman's our top guy. He's going to come out and do a 20-minute segment, which is fine. Segment's really good, but I'd have been tempted to buy that. Was you, we'll talk about the segment before we get to it. Like when Roman came out, did you roll your eyes slightly at like how immediately back to the formula they went after a wild brawl because it popped me?
I don't know, man. I'll be honest. I was probably too busy just popping.
Yes, that's fine.
You know, but 100% get it. You know, because you want it to be like different and kind of outside of the formula what we've got so used to over the past however many years. Yeah, but they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and I kind of even not to excuse them or of keeping doing the same things all the time, but you know, you got Roman. It's not a bad way to open any show, is it?
It was a good segment. It popped me that like they did a wild brawl and then Roman did his like 3-minute entrance and it's like they immediately like put the seatbelt back on. You know, it was fine. So anyway, Roman is genuinely. I think he's become so divisive. He's been divisive now for 8 years online. But he has genuinely become like a great presence. Like he feels like a megastar at this point, and you don't see him that much too. Paulie quickly took over the promo and popped himself with a line about someone else will be out the door soon, which was an incredible like moment in time where you realise that he has outlasted Vince, which is incredible.
Can't help himself, kind of.
No, absolutely not. Because what are they going to do to him, right? Ultimately, it's Paulie, man. What are you going to do? So Roman's, in there basically watching Paulie cut a promo. Theory comes out, and then this starts one of the big themes of the show, which was, as you called it before we went on here, the Theory Hour, which it appeared that a clear statement was made in regards to young Theory. Now, I'll be clear, this could all change dramatically on Saturday night, right? Like, people should be a little bit careful not getting carried away here, but man, did it feel like some messages were being sent, Monty. Roman went after Theory. What was your reaction to the big Roman portion of this?
Can't even say poor Theory, you know? Because ultimately it's just like...
Who cares? Owned.
Roman cooked him, man. Absolutely cooked him, bro. Obviously, the big line was, Daddy's not around anymore. That was just fucking... Like I said, that was a big line from the promo. In a promo where, Theory just kind of came off looking like like a bum, to be honest. You know, no one in there was taking him seriously. Like, even when he hit the Usos with the briefcase, they were just like that.
He dropped it too.
Yeah.
How much did that rule?
It's so geeky, bro. That second briefcase hit was so pathetic as well. Yeah, man, he just got geeked, bro. Like, it was, like I said, the Theory Hour. He gets a lot more of it as well, to be honest. But that Daddy's not around line, absolutely just, like I said, he started chanting everything. People started chanting, "Where's your daddy?" or "Who's your daddy?" And he got
Roman,
just obliterated.
Roman did that, like, it's a thing that WWE does a lot where a real top guy, heel, is obviously an underneath heel. They just become babyface because, like, the audience thinks they're actually good. And Roman 100% did that. He was, like, popping the crowd and, like, taking it in and stuff. It was wild. I will say,
when he told New York to take it easy on him.
Yeah, he's nervous. First time. I will say, I get the booking, it's kind of polarizing. And I understand they've been very strongly featured. That act in a vacuum, Roman, the Usos, and Paul Heyman is unbelievable, man. Like, you got 4 dudes that can talk there, Like, in the... Again, I understand the way they feature them can be great. I don't watch a lot of it. That's why, like, to me, it's kind of fresh seeing them like this, because I don't see SmackDown a lot. But, man, it was kind of apparent to me just how much Roman's presence has grown in this last couple of years. Because I take it for granted sometimes. I see him on the pay-per-views, and I don't see him doing TV stuff. But he felt like an absolute rock star here. So I guess that was the idea, right?
Yeah,
Theory.
Yeah, fuck Theory. Like I said, it was just the Theory hour of him just getting kind of dunked on, and this was just
Yes,
set the
just
tone that was about to come for the rest of the hour, to be honest. So.
yes, because we came back from the break and they like did this bizarre thing where they like introduced him, like, ladies and gentlemen, Theory, and he was like just still in there. It's like it felt to me like someone was having some fun parodying certain things, but nonetheless, he was in there and Drew came out. I actually had a pretty good match. It was a DQ finish that led to a tag, which we'll get to in a second. But before we do, thoughts on the singles match part of this with Drew and Theory.
Kind of felt like, in hindsight now, it kind of felt like they just wanted they wanted to send Drew out there to just chop him up a bit and shit.
Yeah, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. Yeah. Because as soon as I saw it on the lineup, I was like, yeah, that's ending in a DQ. So,
yeah.
And it did, you know.
Nice match.
Butch and Sheamus came out, and obviously that led to the tag match. But yeah, man, it was like you said, like Drew just kind of came out, beat the shit out of Theory for a few minutes, and yeah, we moved on.
I did like a couple of things here on the positive side of things. I liked. It was very brief, but I like Bobby and Drew's little facial expressions there when they kind of realized they were helping each other, because I was very scared they were going to forget their feud for a moment there, which they do a lot. Jimmy Smith actually had the line too about, these guys have been rivals before, which honestly I do really appreciate those things, because I think that's something they've been awful at for the last decade and change, where they just babyface turn, all history is erased. Heel turn, don't do that, right? They can work together without erasing history.
Yeah,
so I like that part of it. Yeah, and I also, this is a very, very low level thing, but I'm going to just say it anyway. Thankful to see Bobby and Theory interact at some point before their pay-per-view rematch on Saturday. So all this worked for me. Now let's get to the match itself. Tag match was improvement on the singles match, without question. I thought this was damn good. Sheamus.
Nice, great.
It's always a pleasure to see him because I don't watch SmackDown, but my God, he was extraordinary here. He did a knee drop off the top to break up a pinfall. My God.
Bro, he's a killer, man. I love Sheamus. He don't miss. He's one of those. He's just wildly consistent. Matches always hard hitting. He's yeah, man. He genuinely just don't miss. He's one of the absolute best guys on that roster in ring. Especially when it comes to consistency, man. And yeah, like you said, he was great. Yeah, and I just want to point out the Bobby Lashley part. That's it's almost charming to me, like just how it was weird, because he was over for his title reign, obviously, as a heel, and then obviously he dropped the belt. Then he kind of like, he just feels like it's picked back up again, and like everyone just like absolutely adores him again, and he gets these huge superstar pops, and it's just it's just nice to see. But the tag match was great.
When did it happen?
When he came back
from the injury? Yeah, like that, because obviously he was injured at Elimination Chamber, or was injured at Rumble, left Elimination Chamber. And like when he came back, I saw him next working Omos, and he was like top babyface. I don't even really know what that was supposed to, the transition was.
Maybe the Omos stuff worked,
Maybe, yeah. It might have.
That WWE audience is weird, bro. So
MVP did do a hell of a job when he got involved too, in fairness. So yeah, maybe. Either way, I'm very happy for him. I have to say, genuine question: how many babyfaces are bigger than him right now in the business? Seriously, in the US scene. Let's say the US, because obviously it gets. Who's genuinely a bigger babyface than Bobby Lashley in 2022? What an incredible place
available.
Yeah, like if you
he's actually
genuine popularity, like Bobby's he's got like top 5, right?
He's up there. WWE wise, out of people who are fit and ready to go now, their top babyfaces are probably like, obviously you got Brock, but he's just Brock. You know what I mean? He's gonna pop in every couple of months or whatever. Riddle.
I think it's either Riddle or Bob for WWE's number 1 spot. That'd be my genuine take. And Bob's obviously more. He's more like recognizable because he's been around for so long.
Yeah, of course.
Sheer popularity, Riddle's definitely close. He probably is bigger. In fact, Riddle's over huge, man.
Yeah.
I think they're the top 2.
He's like. I think Riddle's like world title already at this point. To
Mhm.
be honest, obviously it's just awkward getting there with obviously Roman having a belt, and it's like, do you have him beat Roman? It's like,
Yeah,
but obviously that could be huge for him. That would just send him over the top. Like I said, he's one of the top stars right now.
yeah,
It's an interesting one, man. I could see it'd be interesting to think of like Theory not cashing in this weekend at all, and
yeah.
like Riddle beats him for the briefcase somehow.
That'd be
Because
fun.
obviously Riddle's got that stipulation where he can't challenge Roman. So I think that was kind of why there's quite a few people hoping he would win it at Money in the Bank. I still personally think it was kind of insane that Seth didn't win it.
It was pretty nuts, yeah.
You get what you get. So.
I have to bring it up because it came to my mind. I've seen a lot of fantasy booking about Paulie taking Theory's side. And there was a moment in the promo segment where he said, you need your own wise man, And I'm aware of how their storytelling works, and that isn't necessarily a signal. When you look at the pieces at play right now, and you look at who's around and who's not, I think it's definitely possible that Paul Heyman picks Theory, because that's always what his character's been, right? He basically cashes guys in when he feels like it's time to move on and get the next guy. I know it isn't the most exciting prospect because neither of us want this Theory push to happen, but do you think that's a possibility this weekend that Paulie actually, in a match between these two of his guys, he picks a new guy?
I just think I've never been too convinced that Theory will win this thing. He'll win his cash in. I've always from the moment he won it, lots happened in terms of the way it's been presented, and it's had its ups and downs since he's won the briefcase. But literally, I've never really been convinced he was gonna have a successful cash in. Can you hear that?
Yeah. It wasn't that loud. You're fine. Unmute.
Right, it got crazy loud. I could hear it coming, and I was like, "Can they hear it yet?" Where was I?
It's about Theory, man. If he's going to cash in. And...
Yeah, he's going to fail that cash in. I've always thought that. Well, I'm not going to say outright that he is going to fail it, but that's where I've always been with it. And I think now, especially with our new head of creative, Triple H, it's a tough sell trying to tell me that one of the first big things that Triple H does as head of creative is put the fucking belts on Theory. I just don't see. So
God. I really hope this doesn't happen now for your sake. Saying phrases like our new head of creative, like we're in the locker room. It's tough.
We're reviewing Raw right now, so oh my god,
right.
alarms going off.
Sound alerts over there. It's like on a radio broadcast. It's insanity, right? Anyway, the finish here, of course, Dolph got involved again. Well, he didn't really. He just sort of stood there with his phone, and then afterwards, the Bloodline kicked the shit out of him as well. Theory. There was some kind of clear message here. It was either we're not going to do the Theory push anymore, or it was he's winning the title on Saturday. We'll see. I genuinely don't know which. They are that unpredictable. I just would warn everyone not to convince themselves that Hunter thinks less of Theory, because there's a very good chance he's as high on him as anyone else. So we shall see. All right. This show is very much about the great Rey Mysterio Jr. It was a big discussion, the big 20-year anniversary and that stuff and everything that came with it. He got the big grand video here. Before he went out there, it was very cool. He had some legends in there kind of talking about Rey's WWE run. I mean, obviously, I'm aware some people have had their issues with the 20-year piece of this and kind of him not being there the whole time and him, of course, having an incredible career before. But ultimately, it was cool to see him get this moment. He was, of course, then out for an in-ring promo, and it really felt like, to me, Monty anyway, that he actually was able to just kind of speak his mind and talk about whatever he wants to talk about. I mean, it honestly felt like he was just giving a speech. I was really happy to see that. What do you think?
Yeah, I loved it. It was just, Rey Mysterio, genuinely one of the greatest of all time. Everybody loves him, but I still feel like he doesn't get,
He's taken for granted a bit, yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, And even just not the match after, obviously we'll get into it, but he's just the best, you know. And it's just nice to see him just go out there and be himself and just talk without some silly angle. Obviously, obviously there was an angle towards the end, but he was able to do his thing, and we was able to celebrate. 20 years of Rey Mysterio. It's a big thing, and he's genuinely one of the most influential, greatest wrestlers of all time. Legitimately, that's
Absolutely.
it's not just the spotlight's on Rey Mysterio right now, so let's all heap praise on him. I legitimately believe that. So he's the best, man. So
he's tremendous.
He deserves it.
It was nice to give a shout out to Dean Malenko, which again I think was pretty damn cool considering. Conan got one, right? I think you mentioned Batista. I know you said Eddie, and there was a couple of other WWE names that you wouldn't be surprised by. But K-Dog getting a shout out popped me on Fed TV in hour one. That was something. So there you go. Happy for Ray, obviously. To the match now. It was, of course, Dom and Ray versus Finn and Priest, Judgment Day. There was a whole lot more coming after this, but I thought the match was an absolute blast. They had a really hot start with Finn and Ray kind of leading the way. They got some heat on Ray. Dom made a hot tag, and they did that cool deal. They did this a couple weeks ago, where they went to the break with another cut off and came back to Ray's hot tag. It's little things like that I just find add so much to these matches.
He's a genius.
Absolutely. That's
he's a genius. The way he's just, like you said, the way that he feeds for cut-offs and stuff like that, and just his timing and. Just the way he can still fly around the ring, man.
Oh, he's still.
I know we always make our stem cell knee jokes and that, but it's just incredible to see him. It's nuts. It's insane. How old is he? 45. He's got to be in that range.
He's honestly probably older than that now.
Yeah, it's not
actually. Nothing, mate. It's 20. That's probably about right. Yeah. It's crazy.
I'll Google it while you
Yeah, they did the some Eddie shenanigans late with the chair, which always gets a great reaction. Got an incredible reaction at MSG, I must say. Even I was caught off guard by however it got. And then they finished at double 619, and again there was 47. There you go. There's shenanigans ahead, which we'll cover, but this basically was just a feel good piece of business here, and it no one's more deserving of that than him. So
yeah.
I'm just truly delighted as a fan that he's kind of been able to have this run, because it is easy to forget that when he left the first time, people were kind of tired of him and they were booing him. And I think he became, in a weird way, people pushed back on him because he was kind of like the status quo as a babyface. Yeah. It happened a lot. He'd get booed in smart. So it was kind of strange in that regard. I'm glad we've done a 180 in that regard, because he really deserves better than that. So
yeah, definitely. And Hollywood pointed it out on Twitter yesterday. You said some of the smart cities, like New York itself, where they were last night, New York and Chicago.
Yeah, there you
go. So it's obviously see that turn, and everyone just respects him and appreciates him now. And like you said, towards the end of that last run, it got a bit dicey. So
yeah, and this is why I always think it's worth keeping an open mind on these things, because it's I'll just be transparent as someone that loves the guy. I definitely would have rather he spent the last couple of years somewhere else. We don't need to get into where. I think it's pretty obvious. But then you see stuff like this, you kind of go, well, pros and cons everywhere you go, right? He had this moment at the Garden with his son, and I know we all think what we think of Dom, and that's it's still his son. It's pretty cool, man. It's good for him. That's the conclusion here. Anyway, this may be my favorite thing on the show, what they followed this with, because Ray's partying and they have the Havoc gear,
spraying champagne, and
this is one of I actually laughed out loud at this. So unless I missed something, which I may have, they're just doing the segment and then they just turn the camera and Rhea's there, and Ray's like, "Oh, come on, Rhea!" She's gonna sit down and have a glass of wine or something. And he's like, "Come on," and she's got the "I'm your puppy" shirt on. So I'm already popping at this, and then she went back and forth with Valia a little bit, and then she just grabbed Dom by the head and just pulled him like she was his school teacher or something. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
this was high art. Your reaction to Rhea being back and this whole deal here.
Like you said, it was great performance art for Rhea Ripley's return. Just to have that visual of the camera going on her with the "I'm your puppy" t-shirt, that's her return. It just. Yeah, I enjoyed like these angles they did with Rey Mysterio. Obviously, the Halloween Havoc thing was, popped everyone. Just seeing him with his family, fake parties popped me in wrestling. Like the fake celebrations, like they're just like because you watch all the extras, and then obviously it was all his family and stuff. It's just, and they're trying to like act, and it's just, it's I love this stuff. Pro wrestling.
Well, that when Finn was like, the Finn goes, "It's not your anniversary, it's my birthday." Yeah, this act, it ain't there yet because they're trying way too hard, and like Finn for some reason is dressed like some kind of pirate. It's bizarre, but like you realize there's a world in which this act is like unbelievably cool, right? Like those three people, they can do it. The one thing I will compliment them on, even as it is, and I don't really like it as it is, it does feel like Rhea is like the leader of the group, which is is great, but also is going to be challenging because, like, you look at the SummerSlam match, she's just at ringside because that's going to happen a lot, right? Like, there aren't many factions they can work in mixed trios the way they did with, the Bullet Club featuring Liv Morgan. So, that part of it
we don't even know if she's match ready yet, to be honest.
That's a good point, Montel. That's a very good point. Should be an analyst on a wrestling podcast. Good point.
Oh,
very good.
It was a heart, wasn't it? Or was it a brain or a heart? It was something weird. She had a heart monitor. I remember she posted that picture, so you never know. And obviously, she didn't take any bumps or anything. All she did was pull down by his hair, and later on she delivered a kick. And
it wasn't It wasn't even like she grabbed these. Like she didn't pull his hair. Like she just like grabbed his head and was like, "Here, just pulled it." Like he was like 5. It was really something. It was like she was pulling him away from a fight on the playground or something. It was wild. He's a grown man. He's not even that small either. He's not small. He's tall as that.
He's tall, but he's still he still needs to fill out a bit. Not to sound like JR or anything. But, so he still feels like he's
a kid,
young, little dumb.
But what I'm saying is, like, if she'd have grabbed Rey like that, it's like I get it because Rey's so short, right? But the fact that she just like went like this, like, "Oh, come here," and he just sort of went with her. Fuck man, she was putting the boots into good stuff. Great over Rhea back. All right, stick with women's division here. Last week we talked about Becky Bianca in the build, and I said to you, it feels to me like they realise they have nothing left for these women to do together on TV, so they just had to put the match together as late as possible. And this segment confirmed that for me because this 100% felt like they were just like, I don't know, we need to do something. Let's just have them brawl. The promo part of it was like nothing. And honestly, no one needed more of it because we've seen them talk to each other enough for a lifetime. I'm sure the match will be great. The brawl, of course, it's a brawl. It is always fun. But, like, they've kind of done everything they can do with this feud. It feels like, Monty, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And like to your point, it kind of just felt like, well, there's not much else they can do. So we want them on the show, but what more can we do with them? So just go have a brawl. Like the promos weren't long at all. It was just, and maybe that's not too much of a bad thing.
No, I think it was a good thing.
We've heard these two go back and forth a million times, and especially with Becky Lynch's like heel promo style now. It's like there's only so much of it you can hear, bro. So
I agree. I mean, I think they're both. I actually like both of them as promos, but I will say, like, Becky can be kind of grating, and I know that's the point, but she can be, as you just alluded to. And like, as much as I love Bianca, she's not like exactly multi-dimensional as a promo. So like, once you kind of get the idea of it, you get to see it, and it's not a problem. It just is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'm sure the match will be great. It is what it is.
Yeah,
I will say, I wanted to ask you this because I was thinking about it. Do we have any concerns here about the result? I feel like you do, right? Because it's Becky.
I think Becky's like Charlotte in the sense that, like, whenever she's in a title match, like, there should be at least some alarm bells. It's like, even if it's like a last minute thing. It's Becky Lynch, man.
Yeah,
it's Becky Lynch, man. So there's always that chance, but obviously it would make sense for Bianca to, like, really put the Becky Lynch stuff to bed. Where it started as well. Yeah. Obviously, it makes a lot of storyline sense, etc., etc., etc. And also, it just kind of feels like it's at that point in her reign. I said this before, like it was like last year, where this win here in under these circumstances versus Becky would do quite a lot for her, even though she's already beat her before on a bigger stage. But at this point in her reign, like I said, it's yeah, man. I think obviously it would be the right thing to do, and I think it will actually do quite a lot for her.
She has a couple of matches now left, kind of waiting for her too, because Rhea is back. Of course, that's a match they didn't get to do because of the injury. And in the next deal, we kind of got, I think, it sure felt like this was setting up Alexa for some kind of title program. Alexa and Doudrop wrestled. The match itself is really not much at all. Got a few minutes there. But the promo before, and then the video. So last week we talked about the 24/7 stuff very briefly because none of us wanted to talk about it because it was bad for all involved. It just was not a good segment. And this week there was a really interesting moment where Jimmy Smith said last week on Raw, and it flashed up 2 weeks ago, and it showed Alexa pinning Nikki, and they kind of just removed it from like the history. I don't want to overstate this or anything, but this sure felt like someone being like, "What are we doing with Alexa?"
Yeah.
She had like
100%.
a very direct promo where she literally looked down the camera, which in WWE is like the unthinkable. It's like bleeding, So this talk about kind of the whole segment because it felt to me like this kind of get Alexa moving in a particular direction. Monty, what did you think?
Yeah, same. To be honest, literally just it's nice to see that she's just kind of been floating recently. She's came back and it was a pop, and Alexa's she's a big name. Like a lot of people really enjoy her, so. She was just kind of floating around, and it was like she was back, but not really. Even though you'd see her on TV, she was never really doing anything overly interesting. We got a few tag matches with Liv Morgan, which was like, where was it? We started thinking, where's this going to go? And it just didn't go anywhere because obviously they had bigger plans for Liv. And she's just kind of been floating, man. And like you said, last night, the promo before a match, it sounded like she's actually got a bit of direction now. Obviously, mentions the title, which they don't really do that in WWE unless it's going to go somewhere. And Alexa Bliss is more than capable of going into a program with, for example, a Bianca Belair. So, yeah, man. And she just kind of, obviously, she's still a face at the moment, but I feel like there's a certain little things that she did. She had a little bit more attitude in the step.
When she looked down the camera, she very much made a point of like being the old Alexa, which I don't want to. It's kind of cliche, but you know what I mean. The one issue they have, Monty, is I think if they do the angle I think they may do, which is that she has a babyface match with Bianca and then like loses her shit and becomes that character again. I mean the goddess, not the other thing we don't need to talk about. The one concern I have is I genuinely think there's a chance the audience response to that will be finally, and they'll be excited about it because I don't know if you've seen the sentiment, but it feels like everyone just kind of wants her to be that person again,
Yeah, it's just,
and that's always saying it's challenging.
She seems more into it. Like with her just kind of playing herself, she kind of seems a bit bored at times. I think
she is. She's pretty open about that.
Yeah. So this feels like she's got something she can really get like sink her teeth into. So I think to your point about her potentially getting cheered as a heel, I guess it just depends on how well they pull off the turn. Because Bianca Belair is a great babyface to turn heel on, because people love her. So I guess it just depends on how they say it up and stuff, So because if she turns heel on like, I don't know.
This is the problem.
I'm trying to think of some other reason.
I'm going to pull this up now because this is something that actually is important. Because we both watched the promo and was like, "Oh, she's absolutely turning heel soon." But if you pull up WWE's Raw, I'm going to do it now, right? This is where they have a real issue. It feels to me watching the show like they have no heels because none of the heels are important really, and Rhea's been off. But if you look at it, on the heel side, they have as follows. They have Becky, Carmella, Doudrop, Nikki, Zelina when she's back, Rhea, and I guess Tamina. 7. Baby faces, they have Alexa, Asuka, Bianca, Dana. 4. So you're going to have to like flip, unless you're turning Becky after SummerSlam, then you can do the Alexa one without worrying about it.
Bailey's probably landing on Raw, isn't she?
SmackDown needs Bailey, right?
I know.
Surely, look at the state of SmackDown.
It's a mess.
SmackDown is Aaliyah, Charlotte, Lacey, Liv, Maxine Dupree, Naomi, Natalia. I mean, Naomi's not around. Natalia, Raquel, Ronda, Shayna, Shotzi, Sonya, Xia Li. Bro, you gotta send Bailey to SmackDown. You have to. Charlotte's not going to help that much. You need some actual help.
I think Charlotte versus Liv could be quite intriguing, depending on.
Don't do this, pal. You need to find something else. We've got to find a new lick of paint for Charlotte, man. She can't just keep doing title programs when she's around and then going away and then come back. We have to find something else for her to do. It can't sustain, you know.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I guess it can. Just do it.
Right?
I don't know.
Like, we say this, but you know.
But even still, the point I think is worth noting because we both agreed that she was going to turn heel. But you look at the roster and you kind of go, you're going to have to do something here. But anyway, it'll be fun. All right, this for me was the one big miss, and I know you wasn't. You know, the Alexa Doudrop match was not particularly good, but this was the one thing that was like a bad TV miss, which was the Impulsive segment. Impulsive TV, right?
Apparently,
dude, this is insane. We had a conversation about this and like. Why would you go out your way to make him like so generic and like so WWE TV? Even his talk show segment is just like another do something like weird with it, man. Like it's just bad, and the crowd didn't like it to begin with, and it got infinitely worse from Maurice out there. I don't know what the fuck she was doing last night, but it was not good. Miz tried his best to save it. I guess he kind of did, but it was bad. It was a bad segment, Monty. What did you think?
Yeah, it was really bad. Like just Logan going out there doing generic stuff. It's just like it doesn't even feel like you're getting the actual. You're not getting the actual Logan Paul vibes. You know.
Yeah.
We said it before. Like it'd probably be a bit better if they actually let him get a bit more creatively involved. Hopefully, with all the changes going on, that could be something that they look at. And just the whole like babyface dynamic thing, like it's just never gonna work. Like unfortunately, and it's not even like. I feel like it would be better for his image if he was performing as a, good celebrity heel than like trying to, try and get himself over and put himself in a position where he might find himself like resenting the fans. We saw that with Ronda. So it's tough, man, because especially. When I watch him as well, and I watch kind of like how he carries himself, how he, how he projects his voice, and all these different things, it's like he's just kind of a natural heel,
Yeah,
it's just
100%. At one point, he even did like a maniacal laugh in the middle of his promo. What is this boy doing? It's bizarre. The other problem they have with him too is like because of the kind of celebrity he is now, before I go any further, I think they should use celebrities like this because he's very popular. I'm not trying to dismiss the guy, but the problem they have is he's someone that if you're not an active fan of his, you don't listen to his podcast, you don't watch his content, the general public opinion on him will not be like, oh yeah, he's the guy or he's the guy that does. He's like one of those guys you either know absolutely who he is and what he does, or you're going to you're immediately pushing back on the idea of him just because of how they describe him. Internet celebrity, and it shows these clips of him doing stuff like this whole shit online. The general person doesn't know him, right or wrong. I'm not, we're sitting doing the rest of it. I'm not knocking it. I'm just, the general person will just not, they won't be like, oh, awesome. There's a resentment for that kind of genre of celebrity, I think, which makes it a weird deal in a place like MSG where they're not going to be blown away by his star power, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%. He's, he's not, like you said, internet celebrity. People kind of roll their eyes at it anyway. So, like you said, they see all the clips of him doing shit with on his podcasts and stuff, and people just like...
Exactly, it's true.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's fair. It's like, here's a good example. Is he way more relevant in 2022 than Johnny Knoxville? Of course, right? But how many people that watch, Mania are big Jackass super fans? That isn't the point. The point is that if you're not a super fan, you just know of, and it pops you, right? That's about it, isn't that? Pat McAfee's the same thing. It's like, not that many people, like, I'm sure not many people watch Mania are, like, watching his show every day. But their awareness of him, the general perception of him is, he's a cool guy who talks about sports.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that exists for Logan. So you have this weird dynamic where he is absolutely a big celebrity and they're right to frame him the way they do. But the actual audience going to show is just like, oh, whatever, man. So you got a challenge. He needs to be a heel. I agree totally.
Definitely a challenge. Definitely kind of in a weird. He's kind of in a weird space at the moment. So, you know.
Miz is trying his best. Legitimately trying his best. Everyone dunks on Miz, but dude's like, he's trying, man. It's difficult, you know. Poor Maurice. I don't know what happened to her. It was tough. It's as bad as I've ever seen her on TV.
He's got like nervous and shit. It was mad. Like, yeah, it was weird, painful.
Was she doing like a bit? What was the deal? She was like, well, you know, when she was like stumbling on her word. Like, now to be clear, I can barely speak English. I'm not trying. But was she like, was that supposed to be what she was doing? She was like messing up her words and stuff. It was fucking weird.
I think one of them was, but I don't think all of it was. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
She's been on TV speaking English for years. Why would she? She at one point she had like there was one, I forget what she was saying. She had one where she stumbled on it, and like the announcer was like, "Well, so second language." I was like, "Yeah, but she's been. This isn't a thing. Like, what are you talking about?" I don't know. It was bizarre. This was not what the program needed, but there you go. Here we go. Speaking of Pops Money, we're back. We go to an incredible visual where the Prophets and the Usos are like, you know, ready to have like this face off, and Jeff Jarrett walks in. He walks around them and in between them, and he's like, he's got so much tanner on, and he's got like baby oil on, and he's got like a vest, referee shirt. And I just looked at this guy.
No sleeves.
This is unbelievable that this has gone from being a bit that he's a carny to like he's actually one of the most relevant guys on SummerSlam weekend. What an incredible artist he is. And he was honestly, I thought it was a cute segment. I actually liked him. He's a little bit silly, but you know.
Yeah, it was silly, but it was it's Street Profits, Jeff Jarrett, and the Usos. Like, what do you want? You know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, man, it was a nice little 30 seconds of TV or whatever it was.
Pop me the idea of him going to MSG for this, I must say. I mean, I know he works, and they're like he's like a live event guy now, you know. Pop me the idea of him being there for this, getting all jacked and ready to go. So, seriously, compliments to these two teams because they are very, very good, both of them. And they feel totally at home in this setting, being silly, but they can also be like, do serious, fiery promos. There's an art to that. So, credit to him because this, in other people's hands, this could have been a lot worse than it was because he was basically like, well, they were acting like he was like the principal, you know. It was bizarre, right? Like he would walk back in, and
they were saying stuff behind his back and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was silly, you know, kind of horse shit, but they did it well, and it was fun TV as a result. So credit to it. Let's stick with the tag team here. Alpha Academy versus Dolph and AJ. I wish this got more time on it. They didn't give this a lot. What we got, I like quite a bit. Dolph, still, yeah, it was because Dolph still is like. He had that deal where he teased the hot tag and he fed that big Otis back elbow thing that he throws and took that like incredible bump. It's like, man, he can still take those bumps even after.
Yeah, I was gonna say his bumping's not
ridiculous.
Next level exceptional, you know.
Yeah, he's been Dolph Ziggler for 14 years. What do you think of the tag match, pal?
Yeah, I thought it was good to be honest. Like you said, I could have got a little bit more time, but you know, the matches on the show did go decent lengths, to be honest. Yeah. And this was just kind of like a nice match, and you know, there's probably a lot more juice there, but yeah, it was nice either way. Ziggler's still bumping like crazy. You know, Gable's just great, and yeah, man, I enjoyed it. It was a nice short tag match.
I have to say. It's obviously they're doing something with Theory, and my concern is that if the Dolph prediction doesn't happen, I think ultimately Dolph's going to kind of align with Theory, which is a shame. I'm really intrigued by these two being a babyface tag team, AJ and Dolph. And I understand why there is hesitance because AJ is a top guy, but I genuinely think this could be like great TV. With a 3-hour time slot each week, you need guys to put in serious match time. I think these guys can have 20, 30-minute tag matches and produce great TV.
Yeah,
Like Usos versus Dolph and AJ for the belts, I think would be tremendous TV. But I don't know. What do you think? Any chance we get there? It feels unlikely, but I thought it was worth throwing out there.
I think it could. Yeah, it could definitely be something that produces a lot of great matches. I wouldn't be too convinced that they'll actually go through with it, to be honest.
No.
It definitely just felt like one of those WWE tags where they just kind of throw two baby faces together. So, yeah, man, it's definitely an idea though.
Just feels like something fresh for both guys to do, something kind of exciting and different.
Yeah, just something to freshen up AJ because AJ's had a pretty good run in WWE.
Pretty good, yeah.
Pretty great
Damn
run.
good,
He's been treated like a top guy pretty much the whole time up until kind of like recently. And I know he's got a little bit older and stuff, but you're still fucking AJ Styles.
Right. Absolutely.
And like Dolph Ziggler, he's just like he's still Dolph. Just give him interesting stuff to do, and he'll rise to it. And yeah, man, he's
I also think like with 3 hours every week, it'd be nice to have like a couple teams that are really like main event acts. I'm not saying they would be like absolute top guys, but they would bring some. Basically, they'd do what Orton and Riddle were doing for the division before Randy went down. Like just giving the show some meat in terms of tag team wrestling. I think it would help, but we'll see. Dolph's going to do something with Theory, clearly. Hopefully, they have something for AJ in the meantime. All right, main event. This was almost exactly what I expected this to be, and like the first half of it, I'll never remember any moment of. The Bloodline in control isn't the most exciting thing. We've talked about this in a range of ways, and it is what it is. I will say this one at least had the kind of flavor of Ford getting busted up, which was always, it's always a great visual, right? And they went into the big finishing stretch. It wasn't like that expansive or ridiculous, but it was very good and very well put together. Really good match. Just, you probably get skipped to the second half and not miss too much. Monty, what do you think of the Raw main event?
Obviously, the kind of aura of Roman Reigns and kind of the spectacle of seeing him wrestle definitely means something, And during the Bloodline heat, there was probably the only notable part of it. Like Bloodline heat, it's not like it's actively bad or anything. It's just kind of like boring heat,
Yeah.
It's not like it's poorly wrestled or anything. But there was one moment during the start of the match where Roman tags in and the build to it, and the crowd starts chanting Roman and shit, and it's just like he's just a huge star, So moments like that always pop me. Then obviously you get into the second half to come back from one of the breaks, and you can just see Riddle ready for a tag, and it's just like, here we go. And man, the last few minutes were, it was a good pace, very fast pace, and they hit all the moves, and man, it was good. I'd say it went pretty much as expected for me, to be honest. It was a good match, a good main event with big stars, and man, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good show.
Live crowd liked it a lot. One interesting note was the finish was Roman over Riddle, right? And they'll give you a couple nice false finishes, but it made me think, because I was thinking, Seth freaking Rollins, where is he? Then at a post-match angle, is Theory dropping 2 falls in a week, or is Seth about to lose another big pay-per-view match? Was my kind of lasting question here as I looked at the end of the show. I was like, man, it feels like Seth has to win after all that's happened and the fact that he, beat him up after the match. What do you think? Is Seth taking it on Saturday?
My thing with Riddle is that, like I was saying earlier in the podcast, I just think that he's pretty much ready to be in the world title picture, pretty consistently, Obviously do other stuff so we don't get sick of him, sort of thing. But I think he's just kind of on that brink level, Seth's obviously established, but you bring up the point where Seth has lost about 5,000 feuds in a row, So it's a weird one. But Seth winning in terms of because Roman's the top guy at the moment, it makes more sense in that regard. But I'm sure Riddle will be fine. He lost at Omos a few weeks ago, you know.
Yeah, and they did the angle here, so they kind of softened it up a little bit. And Seth's got to win, I feel, man. I mean, I think you know me well enough to know I don't care. But, like, it kind of feels insane if Seth doesn't win here, to be honest with you. Like, if you look at his year so far, it's...
Had a great year. He's just not won.
Yeah, he's probably the best year of his career in terms of performance, in ring anyway. It's just like, I love what they did with him and Cody because they were decisive and emphatic about it. But you do have to give the guy something a little bit back now just to kind of keep him going. But we'll see. Okay, let's put a bow on Raw. I thought it was a good show. I don't want to carry it away.
Yes.
I was genuinely a good TV show, and the biggest compliment I can give it to Coach on what you said earlier. For a 3-hour show, there were very few segments that I thought were like, please never let me see it again. And the only one that was, frankly, I could see what they were going for. It just didn't work. It wasn't like it was a segment with no, how do I put this? It wasn't a 24/7 deal where someone just went, I'll put that on TV. They wanted the Impulsive thing to be good. It just wasn't. Shit happens, right?
So they tried, but...
Exactly, yeah. So
I guess it was just never going to work. But...
Right, and hopefully they adjust. But so what's your kind of final thoughts on what was an eventful episode of Raw?
Yeah, pretty much the same as what I was saying earlier on at the start when, it was a good solid show, start to finish. The low points were very brief for what they are. You know, the Impulsive segment was 10 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Then, the Alexa Bliss versus Doudrop match wasn't offensive. It was just like, it was just kind of like a nothing match, Bliss just kind of won in a couple of minutes. And for a 3-hour show, it's I think it's always fair to look through it at that lens. And even when Raw has had its misses over the past few months, years, or whatever, it's always best to look at it. It's like, it's a 3-hour show. It's always going to have its down moments, or at least parts that you subjectively don't like yourself. So, for a 3-hour show to go, only have kind of like 15 minutes of downtime, I think is a pretty successful start of the... I guess we can actually call it a new era without sounding overly corny about it, to be honest, because Vince is gone. He's gone.
He's wild, man.
He's been took out back,
Apparently so. Never going to see him again. I do have to ask before we wrap up here. While we've both praised the show, one thing I do think is interesting. This was a show that I think a lot more people... I think the viewership may be interesting for this. I think when was the last time you saw the timeline look like it did last night, Monty? It was something, wasn't it? My God.
Everyone just streams everything now, don't they? So.
Yeah, exactly. It isn't
especially the Twitter, especially like the Twitter audience.
Right. You're right. So, but it still felt somewhat telling in terms of interest level,
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a lot of interest, 100%. And obviously, MSG sold out, Roman Reigns. Quickly, actually, before we finish up, they hit a few nice shots of the crowd from Madison Square Garden. Obviously, WWE do tend to do a better job of it than AEW, but it's always something that I feel like we kind of look out to and point out on this channel. So, there was some really great crowd shots of Madison Square Garden, of course, one of the world's most famous arena. I'm not really the biggest fan of it, looking pretty much like everywhere else these days. But it's still Madison Square Garden, so it still has its lore.
It's the one building they still treat like a separate thing. WWE, wherever they go, it's just Raw. It's SmackDown. They don't even really. It's the one building where part of the branding is we're at MSG, we're at the Garden.
Yes.
It's the one, and obviously the reasons for that I'll go without saying, but. So that is always fun. I agree. So we both agree the interest was up. I do have to ask, it was the go home Raw anyway for SummerSlam. Did it do much for you on that front in terms of selling you the biggest part of the summer, quote unquote?
So I guess when we look at the Raw matches on the SummerSlam card, you've got Becky and Bianca. I thought, that kind of was what it was, but there's only so much more you can do if it, at least they've got on the show, which, obviously they're always going to because they're two big stars. The Seth Riddle thing, obviously, there wasn't really much juice to the storytelling there to that match. At least Theory and Bobby Lashley interacted. That was something, Roman, the Bloodline absolutely beached Theory. So I guess, they've done some things, but probably could have done a little bit more, but...
I didn't think it was a home run in that regard. I think a big part of it was hilariously as it sounds, I think in their format, like the Miz Logan stuff was supposed to be like a real hit. I really believe that was their like belief.
Yeah,
Like
of course it was.
start with a hot brawl. We're gonna give him this big
Yeah.
talk show segment. You know, it did not work as intended. Saturday is going to be really interesting to see the reaction he gets and that match gets, but time will tell.
Edge, of course, we might as well spend a quick 30 seconds talking about Edge. Yeah, obviously there was a lot of talk about Edge coming back, and apparently at one point he was actually scheduled to at least be at Raw, but apparently he had some travel issues. And obviously we've got the Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio versus the Judgment Day match on the SummerSlam card that was announced last night. So, I think it would be fair to expect seeing Edge return there, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we'll see what this latest version of Law Edge looks like at SummerSlam, I assume.
I genuinely think all Vignette Society is just going to be Edge, rated R superstar. I honestly believe they'll just
that's the word, which is
the right thing to do, clearly.
It's the right thing to do, but the vignettes is just like, okay, whatever.
Maybe it's the Fiend. More on that later. Anyway, folks, we hope you enjoyed this. You can expect these every Tuesday. We've committed to these, Monty, right?
Yes.
As a family, you and I have said we're going to do it.
Of course, last week, it's not on the YouTube. So when you've heard us say this is our second Raw review and you're thinking, what the fuck? It's because we had some technical difficulties last week. They will be avoided this week, it looks like. And if you do want to listen to our first Raw review that we did last week, on last week's show, Vince McMahon's last show, you can still find it on all the normal podcast channels. Like I think we're on Apple, Google, and Spotify, I believe. So
people love
you can still find it.
You know that, right? Yeah, people loved it. Critics were calling it everything from shit to fucking shit. It was beloved. All right. Give us a thumbs up on this video. Please do subscribe. Monty, any other plugs and promotions, or is that about us covered here at WrestlePurists?
Our interview with Jonathan Gresham, I'll still plug that because it's still fairly new, and obviously he's a very intriguing name in the news at the moment, to say the least. We have an interview with Jonathan Gresham, and your match review of FTR versus Briscoes by our very own Joe Hulbert. Great stuff, of course. I'll put you over enough yesterday at the end of that podcast, so I'm just going to tell I'm just going to tell people to go read it. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Okay, folks. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you probably tomorrow before Dynamite, right, Money? Probably. We'll probably go there.
Yeah, most likely. I'll probably try to get Manny back as well because I think it's his day off work. So
the great Manny will be back and we can talk about trades and such again. So we'll see you then, folks. Hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe, like the video. See you on the next one. All hail. Keep grinning.
Bless.